Nancy Cavey, a Florida Social Security attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started today, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. This podcast is not legal advice. The Florida Bar Association says I have to say this. So now that I've said it, nothing will ever prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the Social Security disability claims process, the games that are played, and what you need to know to get the Social Security disability benefits you deserve. So off. Now, today, we're lucky to be joined by our special guest, attorney Amy Bellhorn, who's going to be joining us in discussing, comparing, and answering common questions that we get about supplemental security income, SSI, and Social Security disability benefits, SSDI. So I want to introduce Amy. At the age of 15, she decided to become an attorney as a voice for the injured and the disabled as a result of being involved in a serious accident. So she brings to the table her understanding of what it's like to be disabled and not having your voice heard. She has a passion and a desire to help others as an attorney. And as a result, after she graduated from FSU, she went to law school. She went to Stetson University College of Law School here in the St. Petersburg area and graduated in 2000. She has served in a number of capacities for legal nonprofit organizations, worked at several law firms, and then she went out on her own in 2006 and established her own law firm. She's been recognized by Legal Directorate, recognized with Client Choice Awards, and recognized by Martindale-Hubbell as being a fantastic attorney. So I want to welcome Amy, who is a Social Security practitioner, and to whom I will refer cases, especially SSI cases. So, Amy, I'm going to be asking you at least 50 questions. And if people have any questions at the end of this, they can go to your website at www.bellhornlawfirm.com and call you at 727-822-7121. Or email you at bellhorn@bellhornlawfirm.com. There'll be lots of ways to follow up with you for any questions that we haven't been able to ask today. So we're going to take a quick break before we get started, and then we are going to get going with these 15 common questions that we all get as Social Security and SSI attorneys.
Filing for Social Security disability, or has your claim been denied already? Either way, you require a copy of your rights to Social Security disability benefits, which will cover everything you need to know about the Social Security disability claims process. Request your free copy of the book at caveylaw.com today.
Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. We're going to jump in with some of the basics. So, Amy, explain to us what is SSI.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It is such a pleasure to do so. And I'm happy to talk about SSI. So SSI is supplemental security income. It provides monthly payments to adults and children who have income and resources below specific financial limits and who meet one of the following three criteria. First, they're age 65 or older. 2, they are blind. Or 3, they have a medical condition that keeps them from working, which is expected to last for 1 year or result in death. This is the one that we'll primarily be talking about today. So for this one, the SSI benefits are disability benefits for those who have not paid into Social Security Disability Insurance Benefits, SSDI, or have not paid enough into be insured. As I said, it is need-based, and you must be approved on a medical and non-medical basis. For the medical basis, you have to have a medical condition that meets the definition of disability under Social Security. However, it's unlike workers' compensation, veterans' disability, short-term disability, long-term disability, and other types of programs. Here, there's a very specific and strict definition. The definition is that your physical and or mental condition has lasted or is expected to last for at least 1 year or to result in death. And it must prevent you from working, not just at your past job, but any type of job. Thus, it is important that if a person is thinking of applying for SSI as soon as they believe that their disability will prevent them from working for 1 year or more that they do so. If you are approved on a medical basis, that's wonderful. Then you will have an interview with SSA to provide them information on income, assets, and resources, just like when they applied, and they'll have to be approved on a non-medical basis as well. SSA has a SSI pamphlet in case anyone may want to look at it. It's online, or you can call SSA at 1-800-772-1213, and it has detailed information, but hopefully we'll be able to get through a lot of the most common questions today on SSI.
Well, Amy, as you well know, we have situations where a person has never worked at all in the course of their life. For example, they may have been married for many years and never went into the workforce. Or on the other hand, we will have people who have worked and they've become insured by working at least 10 out of the last 20 quarters, but then they lose their insured status because they wait too long to apply for Social Security disability benefits, or they never had enough quarters. Is that your experience with SSI claimants?
Yes, exactly. If they've never worked, if they're under the amount of being fully insured, all of those things. However, unfortunately, unlike for SSDI, where you don't have income, asset, and resource limits, for SSI, you have the income, asset, and resource limits that you have to be under. So even if you've not worked and are not fully insured, in one of those examples, you do need to meet those criteria. Like for an individual, under $2,000 a month, for a couple, $3,000 a month for income, asset, and resource limits, just as a general overview. So that would be one of the concerns, is even if they might not meet those fully insured status, they still need to be under those income limits, if you will, for SSI.
Are there any other differences between SSI and SSDI?
Oh, yes. So for Social Security disability benefits, as we had said, those you essentially pay into Social Security through employment for a certain amount of time. You have to pay into the system to be eligible for the benefit for at least 5 years, and you have to be fully insured. And for those benefits, you still have to meet the same definition of a physical or mental impairment that lasts for 1 year or more or results in death, just like for SSI. Here, though, for SSDI, those income, asset, and resource limits that are applicable for SSI, not for SSDI. You can have your however much money in the bank, maybe like Bill Gates. So that part is not looked at. You don't have the non-medical criteria on your application. You don't have the interview after you've been approved if you have been for the medical portion. So those are like the main differences.
So I'm often asked, is my husband's income counted for SSD? We own a business. Is that counted? We have investments. We own real estate. Is that counted? And obviously, if we're talking about an SSDI case, none of those assets are material. But if it's an SSI case, any one of those could disqualify the person for eligibility for SSI. So the question I get a lot is, can I be eligible for both? And what's that answer?
Yes, you can get both SSDI and SSI. It's called a concurrent case. I've had it happen a lot for people. There are some things that come with it, but yes, you can be eligible and be able to receive both SSDI and SSI. Great question.
Yeah. So when we're interviewing clients and deciding whether we're applying for SSDI and SSI, we ask, obviously, what's the date last insured? And if they're insured, we generally aren't filing an SSI claim. But if we have a period of time in which they were insured and lost their insured status, then we're going to apply for both SSDI and SSI, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about what are the ways to apply for SSI?
Excellent question. So one of the things that I hear a lot of is how people are so scared and fearful of the process. They don't know how to apply. They're not feeling well. They have pain, fatigue, and they're just not feeling like they're able to do it, where to go, what to do. So happy to be able to provide some overview and easy tips on how to do it. There's 3 basic ways on how to do it. The first, you can set up a phone interview. You can call SSA at 1-800-772-1213, magic number of the day for SSA. And when you call them, it's a highly automated system. So don't get frustrated. Maybe play your favorite piece of music or have a book or a magazine handy. You might be on hold for a little while or more. And then when you get a human being, you can just ask them that you'd like to set up an interview to apply for SSI. There's no set time for those appointments. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's longer. And then you'll have a scheduled date and time for a phone interview to apply for SSI. When you have that phone interview, they are on average 35 minutes. They can go longer or shorter depending upon how much information you have ready, handy, and available. Also, if it's SSI, it's usually longer. And if you could be ready earlier, because sometimes they call early and sometimes they call later. You just never know. And also, if you have a minute phone, make sure you have enough minutes. You don't want it to run out in the middle of it or sometime and then they're gone and they haven't processed your application. So make sure your phone is charged. Make sure if it's a minute phone, you have enough minutes. All those types of things sound stupid, but it happens all the time. Be prepared. And the other way to do it, out of the 2 other ways, is online. You can go to www.ssa.gov. So there it says apply for SSI or apply for SSDI, and you can just click on that and it'll come up. For the most part, it's pretty easy. You can have your information ready, handy, and available. Some of it you'll need to have like your simple things you probably know in your head: age, education, work experience, where you went to school, a contact information of somebody that you know that knows your health information, and your doctor's contact information, including medications that you take, just some of those types of things. Make it a little bit easier as you go. If you do it online at www.ssa.gov, make sure if you exit at any time to hit save, write down your re-entry number. If you don't do that and you click it down, it's gone. I hear it all the time from people. And you can't go back and get it. Yeah, gone. So, so make sure you hit the save and then write down or print out that re-entry number. If and when you want to go back, you just enter your re-entry number and there it all is. And you can take breaks. You can do whatever you need to do. If you need to elevate your legs or take medication or take a nap, you can come back to it. So it's wonderful in that way if you do it online. However, sometimes for SSI and or child's SSI, you still have to, if you do it online, hear from SSA either on the phone or in person. Usually on the phone's fine, where they have to follow up sometimes on the financial information. Not all of that. They're getting better over the past few years of getting that part online too. The final way to apply is in person. You can go to SSA's offices. If you don't know which office, you can go to ssa.gov/locator, LOCATOR, and you can put in your zip code. It's a zip code locator. And that will allow you to see which office is by you. It'll have the address, the hours, and information. If you don't want to wait, when you go, you can call the 1-800 number, magic number of the day for SSA, 1-800-772-1213, and you can schedule an appointment at your local SSA office. Sometimes by the time they answer your phone, you could have already been seen at SSA, but whatever works best for you. Because sometimes with your a person's health conditions, it's difficult to sit there and wait. So if you want to go and apply in person or at least start the process, they can answer questions and be there and help you. And so those are the 3 main ways. They have a new way too, or newer, where you can ask for them to contact you, and you can do that online, and then they'll call you a little bit later. So sometimes people do that too, but it's by going online to www.ssa.gov. So those are basically the ways to apply, and just be prepared. And you can take breaks if you do it online, and be thorough and honest, and just explain your conditions the best you can to help have someone else understand what it feels like to be you.
Well, there's a 4th way, and I prefer that way, and that is for them to retain a lawyer like yourself or me, because we will actually work with them in completing the form and doing it in a way that I think does a better job explaining a person's disability and their inability to do their own occupation or any occupation. So I find that there are many mistakes that can be made when the person tries to complete their own application. They can come back and bite them, if you will. So let's remember the fourth, and that's why you hire a attorney or a representative to make sure that that application is filled out completely, accurately, and tells a story of your entitlement to your benefits.
Most certainly.
So, yes. Amy, you and I both know that most cases are denied at the initial application stage. I think the statistics are 66% of claims are denied. And then you have to file what's called a request for reconsideration. It goes back to disability determinations, the state agency that makes these determinations at the first two stages. And 2/3 of the claims generally get denied. And then we have to file a request for a hearing that gets us in front of the judges. So I know this is, I basically am very frank with my clients and I say it's a pain in the ass, and it is, but I want clients to understand that neither you or I are in charge of this process or the timing of the process.
No.
Is there anything more about filing an appeal if your case has been denied that I didn't cover?
That was an excellent explanation and description. I think people coming in with those expectations and being aware that most cases are denied and that most do end up at the hearing. If they haven't hired an attorney, which is the most helpful because, as you said, including for appeals, we would make sure that the appeal paperwork is filled out. And it has to be done within 60 days from the date of the denial. The date of the denial is in the upper right-hand corner of that denial letter from SSA. And you get 5 days for mail. Or it would go to their Social Security account, or you get both. And so you have to do it within the certain time frame. If you don't, your case will be dismissed unless there's good cause. So it's important to make sure that you fill out the correct paperwork if you don't have an attorney. And it's the request for reconsideration or request for hearing, depending upon what stage it's at, disability report form 3441, and the authorization to disclose medical information form SSA-827. So it's making sure all the forms are there within the time frame. And if they had questions and they don't have an attorney, to call SSA at that magic number, or going online, or going in person. But an attorney would make sure it's within the time frame. And if it has already passed, we can sometimes ask what's called for good cause request if certain criteria have been met, and know how to do that and look to see if that's possible, because that's what happens sometimes. People don't realize they missed the deadline. And so those are some other things to maybe look out for too.
So my advice to clients is never give up, never give up, never give up. But at some point, if the claim has been denied, particularly at the request for reconsideration stage and you're heading into the hearing stage, if you have not hired an attorney at that point, you definitely should, because you don't want to be going into a hearing situation not knowing what it is you have to prove to get your benefits. And we'll talk about that in our next session. But in the meantime, let's take a quick break.